The mysteries behind the construction of the pyramids. Many seek to understand the methods and techniques used to build the magnificent pyramids, unaware that the answers lie within themselves. The ancients were simple people who utilized available resources to achieve their goals. A baby's creation is a miracle, yet not crafted by hand. Plants, too, are miracles, yet not fashioned by human hands. The people of old differed from modern humans in their thinking and actions. To discuss the construction of the pyramids is to delve into the mindset of the ancient Egyptians. They lacked sophisticated machinery, relying instead on their will, intention, and focus to achieve their goals. When they desired something, they would gather, establish a common goal, and cultivate a shared understanding of their objective. This process resembled a ceremony, where their inner spaces were filled with the envisioned outcome. This was the first wave of creation. The second phase involved a group of skilled individuals who would come together to apply the necessary knowledge and actions to achieve the desired goal. The final phase was the execution of the plan. While this explanation might seem like a general approach to any project, it was different for the ancients. They lacked pre-existing mechanisms for specialized tasks. Everything had to be created as needed. However, they understood the duality of existence, recognizing that every structure has its shadow. During the interaction between a consciousness, with any physical object, person, or item leaves an imprint, a shadow that multiplies within your inner space. Therefore, to create anything of substance, they first had to create its shadow in the inner world before it could manifest in the physical realm. For them, there was no distinction between large and small. They understood the continuum of reality and the principles of manifestation, which they applied to achieve their intentions. Visualization and intention were paramount, representing the stage of insemination. Once they nurtured these structures within the minds of the people, they would come into existence. If you were transported to that era with your current understanding, you might perceive their activities as primitive, failing to grasp the depth of their existence. They understood their dual nature, the inner world and its reflection as the outer world. Therefore, it's crucial to recognize that the pyramids originated in the minds of many before materializing in the physical world. The methods and mechanisms used were merely consequences of their creation, disturbances in physical reality. The final result was a projection of what was created within. This is not to say that the pyramids appeared out of thin air. Rather, the material world follows the inner pattern, which is shaped by will, focus, and intention. Manifestation requires specific physical conditions to align with these three elements. Space, meaning sufficient time to bring forth what exists in the other realm, and mass, representing the minds of many or the mass consciousness that agrees with the intended structures, must be present. Mass consciousness itself is a medium. It requires certain constructs within the minds of many, agreements and disagreements that, when reaching a critical mass, become the benchmark for what can exist in their society. This sub-mental space must be prepared and created for things to manifest in physical reality. As the saying goes, convince them enough to make it their reality. You all live in this conceptual reality, where your minds were prepared before accepting what you call physical reality as your own. Those who understand this secret and possess a strong will can connect their will to the masses and influence them. In your era, this power has been kept secret and misused by many, directing mass consciousness towards self-serving goals that benefit the few. It's crucial to recognize this potential and direct it towards a desired outcome. This so-called metaphysical or occult knowledge is not ancient but rather classical knowledge used by the upper class in modern times. During manifestation, there is a process where, at an embryonic stage, it appears as people carrying out various tasks to achieve the desired outcome. However, all of this is a product of what has been created or inseminated in the inner world. The techniques and mechanisms used to accomplish tasks are merely the result, not as important as the initial wave of creation. Many seek to understand the specifics of how the pyramids were built. You may learn about the methods and techniques, but they might not work because they lack a foundational connection to their ancestral reality. Every reality is like a bubble or a burst of space with varying depths. These bursts are ignited by intention, will, and focus or concentration. The existing reality is a product of a certain will intent. Meddling with the physical reality is futile because physical matter will always follow its ancestral foundation, the laid-out pattern of the will that created it. The methods and mechanics of doing things are simply the resulting pattern held internally by the will. No matter how you modify the existing pattern, it will always seek its original foundational energy. What has been revealed here is more important than the specifics of how the pyramids were built and the mechanisms used. The true understanding lies in the power of will, intention, and focus, and their ability to shape reality itself. The physical mechanisms of pyramid construction. To understand the construction of the pyramids, you must first grasp the mindset and methods of the ancient Egyptians. Examining the hierarchical order of their society is crucial, as tasks were divided among different social classes. Imagine ancient Egyptian society as a single body, with orders flowing from the upper class of leaders down to the lower working class. This structure mirrors your own social systems, but theirs was more established. As mentioned earlier, metaphysical knowledge became misused, allowing the upper class to control their subordinates with mere gestures or thoughts. Information and commands would cascade down from the lords to their minions. These minions, bound to their lords from birth, were not entirely free-willed. They were assimilated through occult means, becoming extensions of their lord's will, their living spirits essentially gone. They served various purposes, including protection, menial tasks, and labor. The ancient Egyptians would project this structure onto the physical world through assigned symbols, placing names on specific locations. Each pyramid would first have a symbolic name, allowing people to grasp its reality. They would then project the desired image onto that location, manifesting it in the subspace, a thinner layer of reality within the same octave. Water served as a conduit for manifestation, aligning with subatomic particles. The laborers would add specific materials to the water, creating custom statues, stones, and obelisks. The power of vibrational instruments. The Egyptians possessed vibrating instruments that generated sonic vibrations capable of solidifying etheric structures. The process began with the projected image of a block within water. This image would be reinforced by specific sounds, solidifying the bricks and holding them in place until they were moved to the designated area. Stopping the sound would permanently solidify the bricks. These instruments resembled guitars attached to loudspeakers, with strings or metal leaves vibrating at specific frequencies to pulsate a drum. These frequencies were then projected at precise distances and angles for optimal vibration. The principle behind this technology lies in the continuum of matter and its 7 states. By maintaining a specific ratio of projection angle and distance, sound could transform matter. The vibrating drums affected objects at the molecular level, making materials behave like fluids or vapors, allowing anything to penetrate them. These manually powered devices, similar to tuning forks but with special materials and mechanisms, were continuously rung by an operator to maintain the frequency. Each tone or frequency corresponded to one of 7 different materials, based on their density and toughness: copper, iron, silver, gold, brass, rocks, and clay. When these sounds were applied to water mixed with soil, the mixture would transmute into the corresponding element. The process involved the mind projecting an image onto water, disturbing the water molecules or those in the mud to create a 3D shape of a brick, statue, or obelisk. This shape was initially unstable. The vibrational instrument would then be used to reinforce the structure of the created material. These instruments could alter the chemical states of materials, transforming simple clay into granite, for example, by manipulating the molecular structures through vibrational energies of specific densities. Hieroglyphic encoding, pillars of reality. Ancient Egyptians used symbols to encode meaning. These symbols were not merely language or representations but energetic patterns that held their entire reality together, acting as the building blocks of their existence. They were the pillars supporting the structure of their reality. The Egyptians identified specific activities, animals, and objects as manifestations of these pillars. Remember, they didn't see duality in nature but understood the continuum of reality and how the energetic realms manifested in the physical world. Imagination wasn't simply imagination, but a realm as real as the physical world. Dreams and ideas held equal importance, at least in the early stages of their civilization. Thinking of something brought power and energy to it. Incorporating these pillars of reality into one's mind invoked weight and power upon the creation. This was the foundation of alchemy, beginning in the mental realm. The mind, like the wind, could carry away ideas, but incorporating these building blocks into one's thoughts anchored them with greater weight and energy. There was no clear boundary between the mental and physical realms. Deep thought was like to stepping out of this world and into another. Through these methods, the ancient Egyptians could communicate over long distances, meet beings from other dimensions, and more. Holding certain objects during rituals or applying specific substances to their bodies during ceremonies amplified and strengthened their mental state, enabling them to sustain prolonged thoughts. Additionally, the arrangement of objects in their living spaces ensured the smooth flow of various energies. Therefore, when you observe ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, you are unraveling a specific reality. With the right keys, reading these hieroglyphs aloud could manifest what is encoded within them. The scribes, guardians of knowledge. These glyphs were not written by ordinary people but by specialized and well-prepared scribes. They would repeat the glyphs in their minds for days, imprinting the emotional, mental, and physical energy behind them onto their consciousness, one by one, until they became symbols of power. During this process, the scribes' minds had to remain pure, free from any contaminating thoughts. The purity of the inscribed glyphs depended on the steadiness of their hand muscles and the clarity of their minds. If their minds were not pure, the inscribed tablets, blocks, or walls would produce bubbles during preparation, leading to disqualification. Disqualified scribes often became dark alchemists. With their knowledge and lack of purpose, they sought ways to remain part of society. People would employ them for tasks that authentic scribes would not perform. These dark alchemists could easily cause accidents or create diseases by inscribing glyphs on sand or clay tablets. From a broader perspective, the ancient Egyptians thrived due to their understanding of the metaphysical. Almost everything was based on the wisdom of the priests, who were highly respected. It was only later that kings gained more reverence than priests, as people realized their decisions could offer protection from invaders and were more practical than the priests' teachings. The decline and fall of the ancient Egyptians began from within, with a division of goals. Some emphasized the priests' teachings, while others prioritized the king's decrees. This internal conflict ultimately consumed the kingdom, fulfilling a prophecy foretold years before the dynasty's end. Q&A. Question. Regarding the construction of the pyramids, how come we have lost the knowledge of transmuting matter into different substances? Answer. The knowledge hasn't been lost. It's simply been set aside in favor of other techniques. Remember, all knowledge is readily available within a specific reality. As consciousness expands and blooms into reality, every intention or thought holds hidden realities. By understanding the continuum of a particular reality, you can grasp how things are done. However, if the knowledge isn't compatible with the current reality, it won't work. This is a common problem in your society. People attempt to study ancient mystical or occult knowledge only to find it ineffective. Knowledge is constrained within a specific reality. Mind and matter are intertwined within the same vine of existence, occupying the same spectrum. Trying to apply knowledge from a different vine of reality is like trying to grow a plant in incompatible soil. It simply won't thrive. Each society or reality has its own realm of knowledge and principles. When you intend to create something or envision a mechanism, it arrives with its own informational spectrum, invisible yet interactive. Your mind can modify or change it, but it remains bound to its original context. The Egyptian society had its own informational spectrum, where everything was interconnected and entangled. Therefore, it's crucial to first establish a reality, allowing the rest to align accordingly. As the saying goes, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all shall be added unto you. The ancient Egyptians perceived reality differently than you do, possessing a different consciousness. Consciousness shapes reality, implying that they existed in a different reality compared to yours. Question. Can you tell me more about these devices that used sound to alter different states of matter? Answer. The devices were merely tools, extensions of the ancient Egyptians' unique perception of the world. They could see beyond the limited spectrum of light, perceiving the world beyond the physical. They could witness what happens to sound after it fades and follow the transformation of a breath. This broader perspective allowed them to manipulate matter in ways that seem impossible to you. Imagine not knowing about trees and then seeing a seedling. It would be difficult to believe that it could grow into a towering tree. However, for you, this isn't a mystery, it's an everyday experience. Similarly, the ancient Egyptians weren't concerned with the transformation of materials because it was a natural part of their understanding. Their tools didn't need to be complex because they were simply extensions of their perceptual abilities. Using the tree analogy, their tools were like flower pots, supporting the growth of the plant. The material of the pot, wood, clay, or ceramic, was irrelevant. What mattered was the support it provided. The key lies in understanding and perceiving the movement and transformation of energy and water. Question: and how come the ancient Egyptians did not show how they built the pyramids? Answer: do you have public inscriptions detailing the construction of your public buildings? Of course not. The purpose of each building was different, and the inscriptions on the pyramids served as records of the Egyptians and their rituals. Question: can we employ the use of our vocal cords, dancing, and songs to create things like the ancient Egyptians? Answer: absolutely. Speech, especially when spoken or sung from the heart, is the most effective tool for communicating with biological elements. It subtly affects other life forms through vibrations and serves as a direct form of communication. The key is to follow the patterns of space. These patterns are based on the building blocks of a specific reality. For the scribes, each symbol represented a certain power. In today's society, these symbols exist but are often overlooked. The kitchen, living room, dining room, bathroom, and so on. These spaces become symbols of power because they represent fundamental aspects of society and individual lives. The kitchen symbolizes sustenance, the dining room represents family unity, and the living room represents entertainment and socializing. These symbols can be used like hieroglyphs. For example, if there's disharmony in a family, the symbol of the dining room can be used to analyze the energies attached to that family. Similarly, the symbol of the kitchen can be used to diagnose health problems. These symbols can also be used to reinforce prosperity, good health, protection, and more. Therefore, in a particular society, the names of these symbols, regardless of pronunciation, evoke powerful energy based on how that society reveres or respects that space or place. This is why people might say things like, "I swear with my mother's womb, as this kitchen sustains this family, so will this business sustain my financial needs." These invocations can be rhythmically combined to create magical songs and words of power. Speaking the names of these spaces aloud evokes these symbols of power, empowering manifestation. However, magic borrowed from one society to another may not work due to differences in mass consciousness and foundational realities. It's important to note that these magical songs and phrases came naturally to the ancients, not through deliberate calculation or symbol selection. They flowed as naturally as speaking their native language. Therefore, instead of consciously choosing symbols, focus on tuning into the awareness that allows you to perceive these symbols of power and their significance in society. Once your awareness is raised, the connections will become apparent, and the process will become natural. Question: these ancient structures, like the pyramids, were created to maintain the spiritual energy of the fallen ones. How could this have happened when the pyramids were initially built by these fallen ones during the time of early hominids? Answer: as explained earlier, the land was initially a place for mystical and metaphysical studies. However, the fabric of space in that location was thinner, making it easier for fallen beings to pierce through the veil of realities and enter through that channel. It's important to understand that the stories of hominids and ancient Egyptians belong to different eras. The hominid era predates Homo sapiens by a significant margin. These fallen ones don't exist solely in one dimension but across multiple realities simultaneously. You might encounter a seemingly ordinary individual who also dwells in other realities, like someone with dual citizenship or two houses. They can easily enter other realities to attend meetings or engage in other activities, remaining unnoticed by those with limited understanding. This explains why some individuals seem far ahead of the average person. They deliberately keep people blinded and discourage exploration of their higher essence because a vast history exists just beyond your current reality. Awakening to this broader reality reveals what has happened to you and why you are kept ignorant in the Matrix. In ancient times, these fallen ones arrived as physical beings, using interdimensional instruments to anchor themselves here. In this era, they choose to appear as humans while remaining deeply connected to the network of fallen ones. During the time of Egypt, they preserved their core nature by creating pyramids for this purpose. Old churches and temples have similar effects, amplifying your higher essence. This lost knowledge, once known by people not so long ago, highlights the importance of recognizing the origin of your thoughts, as they may sometimes be influenced by these fallen ones. Question: So, were the ancient Egyptians a good society or an evil society? Answer: the question of good or evil depends on the outcome. The society began as a place to explore and understand the higher nature of existence. However, similar to how powerful corporations can corrupt startups with initially good intentions, the ancient Egyptians were steered towards power, greed, and profit. This phenomenon led to their downfall.